who covers Georgia football.
Jeff in Mexico. You're on Sikkim 365 Radio on the Bet US caller line. Thanks for your call.
Hey, how you guys doing today? Roll Tide.
There you go. Thank you.
What's going on, Jeff?
Hey, to me, this realignment seems pretty simple for the first four teams. I mean, obviously you have to have BYU. That gives you the most market. It gives you the most eyes. It makes the most sense. The number 2 team has to be Memphis because it's tied in with FedEx. That gives you a sponsor. Plus, they have really good attendance. The third team, I believe, to keep West Virginia happy is you'd want to get Cincinnati. That way it gives them a team that's close. Yes, they don't have a long rivalry, but it could become a rivalry. And then the fourth team has to be UCF because of the attendance they have, the big school they have. The problem I have with Houston is Houston has great facilities, and yes, they have people, but they don't put butts in seats. More people go to high school Dallas football games than go to Houston college games.
Yeah. Jeff, thanks for your call. And, TCU has the same problem Houston does, though. I mean, so, like, if you're going to talk about butts in the seats, like TCU has that same problem. I mean, they really do. You're not going to find too many sellouts at Amon Carter Stadium. You're just not.
Yeah, and that was really shocking because when Baylor did go through their downtimes pre-Matt Rule coming in to eventually turn that thing around in years 2 and 3, we went to a couple of games to cover there. We've been to a lot. I was stunned at how many people were missing. I really was. Because, again, you always heard about, and Baylor put this up themselves back at the old Floyd Casey. They had that tarp in the end zone because it covered up where nobody was going to be sitting because they didn't draw very well. TCU kind of escapes this as far as a school that really doesn't draw very well, and damn, I don't know why. Gary Patterson, for the most part, has done an incredible job at that place.
I know why. It's because it's a tiny school and because a lot of the people that go there don't care about football. I mean, I know several people who went to TCU, and they are far from sports fans. So they maybe occasionally went to a football game, but for the most part, they partied or they went to school, and that was about it. A lot of well-off kids, too, that probably have – a boat to go be on the weekend or whatever. And I'm not trying to, make light of all the students that go there, but that is certainly a big part of their student body are kids like that.
I keep forgetting how small their enrollment is.
They're a smaller school, yeah. They're not like tiny, but they're not large by any means. And what you said, though, is very interesting. I mean, I appreciate you, laying out why you would select each school. And what it brings to mind for me is I go back to what I said at the start of the show. That's why I'm so curious to know what the number will be. Because if 2 is the number, then there's some very quality schools. There's like multiple that are getting left off. If 4 is the number, then there might be a couple that get left off. But that's where the Houston piece comes in. Like, do they make the cut at 4? Or are they a team that makes the cut if it's like 6? You know what I mean? So, like, if it's 4, I like the 4 that you said. But then, yeah, that leaves a couple more teams that are like, man, they'd probably be pretty good too. But I'm sure West Virginia would love to have a closer team. That could be UCF and Cincinnati. I mean, both of those teams would fit really well with West Virginia compared to what they've had recently. So I like your grouping, but I am very curious to see what the actual expansion goal number is because obviously that will dictate who's in, who's out, and who should have probably been in or been out.
For West Virginia, it cuts travel down quite a bit if you can get a couple of those teams. By the way, to close it out with this on the expansion as well, 321, the Big 12, 321 area code. Curious your thoughts on why you have to be proactive. The Big 12 needs to expand to look proactive, matters in terms of perception versus waiting until after Texas OU are gone. And it gives them a chance, whoever is added, to play and possibly even play Texas and Oklahoma before they leave. Now, again, we don't know the illegal thing about if you bring somebody in, do they get to bolt pretty quickly, and does that also affect the buyout? And that's one of my first questions. We get Mac Rhodes back on this show, which we hope we'll have him on at some point this week. It will not be today. Coming up next, we focused in on Georgia. Heard a lot of things about players' injuries and